Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just going to wait for everybody to join us. Fabulous to have you all here. We'll go live in about 3 minutes. Super to see you all coming on board. All right, we can't hear you, but if you do have any messages for us, you're welcome to type them on the chat or on the Q&A. Very welcome to do so. All right, hi Romani, lovely to have you on board. Super, so while we're waiting for everybody to come and join us, put a 1 in your chat if you are a teacher who's joined us tonight. So 1 in the chat if you are a teacher tonight. There we go, lots of you, fabulous. Oh, so good to have you all. That's really, really exciting. Okay. Super. A couple of names I recognize there. Welcome. Welcome, Elizna. Lots of teachers. All right, we've got 200 people who've already joined us. And we just wait for a few more to join before we get started. I think it's always a tricky time of evening, putting kids down and getting suppers ready. Not always easy. Great. And it's such a tough time at the moment for all of us teachers, so we know. Right, good. So we're halfway there with everybody who's attending, and I think the rest are going to be coming on board on the Facebook. So welcome to those of you who joined us on the Facebook. This is a live Zoom recording, so if you are not on the Zoom, you're on the Facebook, then a huge warm welcome to you as well. We sold out this evening, so we weren't able to accommodate anybody else. Well, so we're just delighted that you could join us there on the Facebook. Right, excellent. Okay, so I think I'm going to get started and just kick off and talk a little bit about why we are here tonight and the things that we are passionate about. So to give you a little bit of context of how we got to where we are, and in fact, before I give you the context, let me just kick off with introducing who our panel is tonight. We have got Lara Schoenfeld with us. Lara is the co-founder of PlaySense. She's also the founder of Nanny and Me. She's an occupational therapist and a mom of 3 boys, which I think must be her superpower. Don't know how you do 3 boys, La. She's also absolutely passionate about empowering nannies, which she does through her Nanny and Me program. And one of the things that I love most about Lara is that she's fastidious about theory behind education. And at the moment, in fact, she is immersing herself in research on the 4 to 5-year-old category, because we're expanding our online program to reach all the way through to 5 years old. And the focus is on using play still. We're still very focused on play and believe that that really is the way that children learn. But using play to really develop key foundations for learning that come later, things like attention and memory and higher executive function and symbolic thinking. So Lara is deeply immersed in theory at the moment, and we're very, very lucky to have her. She's going to be speaking tonight on play. Hi, La.
Hello, everybody. So lovely to be here.
And then we've got Nadira, and Nadira is really amazing. She only joined PlaySense relatively recently, just in, I think, in the last probably 6 months, or maybe it's a little longer. And she was initially running her groups in homes, which for those of you who know PlaySense, we run play groups for children, for little groups of less than 6 children in people's homes. And we like it because it's a transition between the nurturing space of being at home with mom and actually going into little preschool. So we have really, until now, really focused on the 2 to 3 age group. And Nadira was running a group in home. And when we went into lockdown, Nadira had 4 little ones in her group. And she has been so unbelievably successful with her ability to translate a program into an online program that she's actually now at 9 children. So her group has grown since we have started. And so she's actually told me a couple of weeks ago that she's now closing her group. She doesn't want more than 9. She finds that managing 9 is enough. And we're just really, really grateful to Nadira because she has embraced this online platform, which may end up being the way of the future for many of us in a way that we really haven't seen in everyone. And it just is very, very special that she's here tonight to share with us. So welcome, Nadira.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to share my journey with you. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nadira. And I'm Meg Fora. I'm an occupational therapist like Lara. I am passionate about supporting parents as they go on their journey from having a very little one all the way through until they emerge from play sense. For me, it's all about solutions. And so when it came to lockdown and we had to create a solution, I guess it played into the thing that makes me passionate, which is creating solutions for parents and for teachers. And so that's a little bit of background about me. And I wrote the Baby Sense books and that series of books as well. So just to give you a little bit of context as to how we actually end up being here with you and what has happened on our Play Sense journey. It was on the 17th of March that I was in South Africa and I was with my team, and we had in our diaries an event that was going to be called Create a Remarkable Journey, and we were going to look at the remarkable journey of parents within Play Sense. And it was only 7 days before that, actually 8 days to be exact, before that Italy entered a lockdown. So I'm talking right at the beginning of this pandemic. And at the time, the narrative that people were talking about was, this is just the season's flu. It's only hit Italy so badly because they've got an aging population, and it only hit China so badly because they had a community of smokers. And really, this is nothing to worry about, and it's not going to affect us. And that was really just 7 days before I was in South Africa with my team. And so on the 17th of March, we suddenly realized that what was going to happen was potentially that schools were going to stop going. We didn't realize it was going to be a full lockdown. I mean, it's hard to believe that it was just 2 months ago, but that was what we were thinking. And on that day, I called the team together, Lara and Melissa, who runs Play Sense, and I said, you know what is actually going to happen here is if we go into lockdown, what's going to happen is that our teachers will have no revenue, because if I'm a parent and I've got no teacher to look after my child and I'm having to do it for myself, I'm just going to stop paying school fees. And so we have a group of 30 teachers, and we looked at this and we went, hold on, we've actually got to sort out something very fast so our teachers have got something to do and some value to add. And so what ended up happening was that we really, what is called, pivoted the business, and we started to look at what could we create, did we need to deliver, and that's when we started to come up with the Play Sense online program, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But before we get on to talk about that, when we started to consider what we were going to build, there were 3 very key parts to that puzzle. And those 3 parts are the things that I want to talk about now. And that is that we have 3 parties that we need to consider when we're creating an online program. And the first one, obviously, is the child. The second is the parent, and the third is the teachers. So what was happening for each of these different populations? Well, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the theory of epigenetics, which basically says that things in your DNA or in your genes can actually be changed for your generation and for the generation after based on experiences that happen in your world. Now, that theory emerged out of research that was done many years ago based on what was called the Dutch winter hunger. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Dutch winter hunger happened immediately after the Second World War, and it was a winter in which there was absolutely no food. I think that the Germans had ravaged the crops in order to try and take control of Holland, and there was nothing to eat. And what ended up happening was that babies, women who were pregnant with babies during that time, gave birth to babies that were small for size, for dates. And these little small for dates or low birth weight babies then went on in the next generation to go on and have small for dates babies themselves. And suddenly researchers started to look at this and started to think, what's going on here? Can genes actually be changed by some crisis that happens in the world? And what they have found to be true is that is absolutely what's happening. Now, I have for a couple of weeks now, been thinking about how the Dutch winter hunger, in many respects, is what we're experiencing right now, this absolute crisis that is going to affect not just our generations, but those to come. And it was just 2 nights ago when I was researching a little bit for this webinar that I came across an article on exactly this, in kind of comparing this pandemic and the COVID lockdown to the Dutch winter hunger. It was in the Washington Post. So it was really interesting that other people are thinking like this. So what is actually happening for our children, and what is going to be this impact? Well, when you look at risk factors for children, we look at what are called ACEs, which are adversive childhood events. And when these adverse childhood events happen in multiple factors, in other words, when you've got poverty, abuse, neglect happening, it really does create adverse outcomes for little ones. And one of the things that is considered an adverse childhood effect is trauma. And there's no question in our minds as educators right now that what our little ones are going through is not normal, and that it is to an extent traumatic. Little ones may have really stressed parents who are passing on their stress to them. There may be situations of abuse as well. So what is going through children's minds at the moment? Well, the first thing is, what can my inquiring mind do now? So boredom. What am I going to do with this creativity that's pent up? And so little ones become mischievous when they're bored. And so you end up with little ones who really are needing to be stimulated at the moment. The second thought might be, why are mommy and daddy cross or sad? Because many of us are going through that. We're all at the end of our tether and are feeling like we're stressed ourselves, and that in fact affects our little ones. Why can't I see my friends now? And where is my teacher gone? So these are the things, and these are the needs that we need to meet for our little ones. When we look across at parents, what are parents going through? Well, when I survey parents, and I'm sure you've got it coming from your own voice, but also from the parents that you interact with, the questions are, how do I meet my child's needs? I know my child needs to socialize. I know my child needs to be stimulated, but how do I even go about doing that? And this, of course, is in the context of many parents who've actually forgotten how to play themselves. And that really is a big piece of the puzzle. Like, what am I going to do with this child who's bored and I don't know how to play? The second thing is, how do I balance work and childcare? There are huge demands on parents and with childcare at the moment, and with their own work. Many parents are fearing being laid off and being furloughed and having reductions in salaries and having to produce the same amount of work as they've ever done before, if not more, and still take care of a toddler at home. And then, of course, on the financial concerns, why am I even paying school fees? And my child isn't able to go to school. So these are the type of concerns that parents are going through. Then on the teacher's side, and we really are close to our teachers, and we know the things that are going through your mind. And I think if you can just give me a number 2 when I hit anything on this list that really resonates with you. So press number 2. How do I save my business? Is my business actually going to be around in a couple of weeks' time? How do I connect with my kids? I really feel that need to connect with them. And many of our teachers talk about how they're missing having their little ones climb onto their laps and missing those cuddles. How do I add value? Because I know my children are at risk right now in their homes with their parents because of boredom, because of frustration, and because of their parents' stress. So how do I add value in a household where parents are feeling so stretched? And where do I get support, particularly for those of you who are teachers who have your own schools? Like, who's supporting you? Who's your network? And if you're going to decide to create a curriculum to add the value, where do I even start? And so tonight, those are the things that we're going to be addressing. I specifically asked Lara to come and get involved here, to come and talk to us about what we can do for children, how we can protect them. And then I wanted Nadira to speak to you about how things have really worked out well for her and what the magic is that she brings to her curriculum. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Great.
Right. So Lara, I'm going to hand over to you now, and I'm going to ask you to speak about play and how really play is the panacea for this pandemic.
Great. Thank you so much, Meg. So it's lovely to be here, and I have 4 brief points. So I'm sure I'm talking to the converted here, because we all believe that play is equivalent to learning. But I'd really like to address how important it is as educators, therapists, and schools to enable children to play during this time as a primary way to actually encourage their emotional well-being and ensure engagement, and therefore add value to parents. There are many articles that are being cited at the moment where parents report that their children may be feeling any of the following: difficulty concentrating, feeling lonely, that they are more passive and withdrawn, or on the other end of the scale, being more angry, irritable, and agitated. And children, like adults, respond differently to trauma, but they need help regulating these emotions, and the best way is really through play. So just so that we all have a little bit of context, the 4 criteria that I refer to when I look at playfulness are outlined by Bundy, and these are very useful to our discussion. The first one is control. When children have choice in an activity, when they can modify the activity and challenge themselves, they have what is known as a high internal control. In terms of motivation, when children show enjoyment, persistence, and concentration, and they repeat their play actions, they are said to have high intrinsic motivation. So that's control and motivation. The next 2 are suspension of reality and framing. Suspension of reality is really what we know as pretend and using your imagination. It's also using conventional objects in an unconventional way, joking, clowning around, and being creative. And then framing. This is really important and probably what children are really missing at the moment, and that is the ability to give and receive social cues within a situation. It's when their little bodies say, I'm a player, through eye contact and gestures, and this is how you should play with me. So how does play, which are those 4 things I've just described, help children regulate their emotions? And there on the slide, you'll see 4 points. The first one is that play enables children to feel in control. The current scenario feels totally out of control. Nothing is the same as it used to be for our little ones. But play creates choice. It motivates them. It encourages creativity, and this helps them to feel in control. They are able to focus on an enjoyable activity, and that brings them to the here and now. It takes them out of a state of worry. It helps eliminate boredom and makes them feel that they have acted on the world. And here, sensory play is a really wonderful way for children to immerse themselves fully and escape in a healthy way. An example with our teachers is many of our teachers through our curriculum have encouraged the little ones to make tents and forts. And this means that the little one is building their own world. They go in there when they need to reset or feel safe, and they have a sense of being in control. So that's a great example of how play is helping children to feel in control. The next point is really that what play does is it helps children to make sense of things that are very difficult for them to understand. At Play Sense, we focus primarily on make-believe play. Everything in our curriculum gears the child to really developing and scaffolding make-believe play. And this is especially important at the moment, as it helps little ones to process their fears, act them out, and therefore communicate their inner world. Play here is really a type of therapy. They can release their stress through play. In the current context, this means that parents might observe children playing coronavirus games or games where there is a theme of illness or death. And at first, parents may be alarmed, but it's important to assure them that this is normal and helpful for their children to understand what they are experiencing. And parents shouldn't discourage it, but use it to stimulate later conversations if they're concerned about their child. Now, my youngest is 3, and even washing hands has become a story about the baddie germs and the good soap and washing all his cares away. So here you can see he's using a simple activity and a simple song, and he's regulating his fears and giving words to what he has heard by making it a game. Playing Doctor Doctor is another great way to scaffold a child's ability to make sense of the current grown-up talk that they are hearing. The third one is that play helps children to meet a primary need for connection. When parents or teachers enjoy a play activity together with a child, it releases stress for both of them. In what neuroscientists call serve and return interactions, parents and teachers need to pick up on little ones' cues as they serve through eye contact or gesture, and then return the serve. And this has been shown to literally build the architecture of the brain and is wired through our emotional processing center. So playing and connecting and being physically close signal to a child that things will be okay again. It also helps you identify issues that may need more conversational unpacking. So when a child asks to play a game, responding to them says, I see you, you are valuable, I want to spend time with you, you belong. Encouraging nature walks for families is a really wonderful way that you can encourage such connection. A lovely example I heard just today was of a teacher in one of our teachers at PlaySense, and she was actually invited to a weekend Zoom party for one of the little ones who were turning 3 in her group. But she had to leave the party earlier, and once she said goodbye, the little one walked up and closed the computer. So it was the end of the party for everyone, and it was like he was saying, if you're gone, the party's over, because he has such a deep connection with this teacher, even virtually. And then lastly, play helps children feel safe as it establishes a routine. When lockdown started for us in South Africa, it took a few weeks for everyone to start feeling a sense of normality again. And I would bet that this was at the exact point when they created a new routine. A flexible routine with play built into it enables children to anticipate what comes next. It makes them feel safe. So encouraging parents to build play into wake up, eating, nappy changing, and bedtime routines helps make play achievable. Because remember, parents are feeling totally overwhelmed and they didn't sign up for this. For example, at wake up time, they could play music and read. During the day, they could balance more active and more quiet play activities such as puzzle and outdoor play. Nappy changes can be times for singing and rhymes. And eating is a great way to add fine motor games such as posting, matching, and sorting. They can encourage cleanup time. Chores are a wonderful way of gaining mastery for little ones and that they feel that they are contributing. And then reading again at bedtime ensures play is part of the routine. Our Zoom sessions as part of the PlaySense curriculum for our little one has helped us in this regard enormously. He knows what day it is and what to expect because of the routine that is created in this day. So the big question I'm sure you're asking now, well, how can I enable such kind of play? I'm going to hand back to Meg and Nadira.
There we go. Sorry about that. Most common phrase on a Zoom at the moment is, oh, I can't hear you, you're muted. So there you go. So thank you very much, Lara. That was fabulous. For all of you who are listening in, please do ask questions either on the chat or the Q&A. Lara will answer them. So any specific questions for her on play, you're welcome to do. And if you want specific ideas, you are welcome to ask her. And she can also talk about the themes that we've based our program on if you're interested in them. Right, so, and I'm going to be popping up a poll now, so I'm going to launch it while Nadira talks. It's up now, and that you can respond to that if you want to as we go along. So next, I wanted Nadira to speak about her what she's done, and you know, Nadira has magically managed to engage with parents and with children, and that really has been amazing. And I think we can have some wonderful lessons about how we can actually practically make sure parents are engaged with us. So Nadira, I'm going to hand over to you to tell us how you actually make your magic online.
Okay, thank you so much, Meg. Hello, everyone. So let me just first tell you a little bit about myself. I was a teacher for 6 years before I joined PlaySense, and now I am teaching 2 to 4 year olds with PlaySense. So this transition from the actual classroom to the virtual classroom was very different to anything that I've had to do before. And I never ever imagined that I would have to switch to virtual teaching in the classroom in order to maintain my income and protect my business. So it was definitely a challenge at first, and I would really struggle to maintain my children's attention. My virtual calls would last for a maximum of 20 minutes, and I was running out of ways to keep the children engaged and to find ways to encourage them to interact. Thankfully, with all the support from the PlaySense team and the training, I realized that I was treating the virtual classroom as I would manage the real classroom. And actually, the virtual classroom needed something completely different. So after the training and support from my fellow teachers with PlaySense, I had managed to extend each of my sessions to over 40 minutes. Especially my morning ring, which was a huge improvement from where I started. I could also see the children were more engaged. They would look forward to my classes every morning, and we would just have a lot of fun doing play virtually. So my 3 tips for managing the virtual classroom would be, the first tip that I would have is to create the perfect routine and to be consistent with it. So this is important to create a space where the child feels safe and secure, and where the child knows exactly what to expect and there's a sense of familiarity. There are so many components to consider when creating the perfect routine, and PlaySense has created training on these tools. But one of the tools that really assisted my virtual group and encouraged the child to engage was balancing active and quiet activities to accommodate for different attention spans and different personalities. So we would normally in the classroom have quiet and active activities, but now you sort of have to do it in a much shorter time space. So in a day at school, you'd have a few hours, but now you have maybe 40-minute sessions. And it was so important to realize that it was so important to realize that children all learn in different ways. So it's important to balance different activities to make sure that each child is engaged. And that leads me to my second point, with children all learning in different ways. And the second point is to have my third point actually is children all learn in different ways. And there are so many different ways of presenting a lesson. So if we look at story time, for instance, there are 3 ways that one can present a story. And there's storybook reading, there's oral storytelling, and you could use a video clip or a YouTube clip to tell a story. And for each story, the teacher will use different techniques and skills to encourage learning, and each way has a different benefit for the child. So oral storytelling is basically storytelling without any books and only using yourself as the teacher and maybe 1 or 2 prompts. With oral storytelling, you can take on the role of a character, and you can do this by painting your face, by dressing up, or even using a prop or 2. The wonderful thing about oral storytelling is that later on, after you've told the story a few times, the story, the words, the structure, it all becomes like loose parts that the child can play with. And you can ask the child to tell you something about, instead of Goldilocks and the 3 bears, they would maybe start telling you a story about the 3 princesses, or what happened when the fireman ate all the porridge. So it also just encourages them to use their imagination and tell their own story. So for me, something during the training that really stood out was, being able to present a lesson in different ways. And once again, each child learns in a different way. So using different forms of storytelling to make sure that every child is engaged and every child benefits from your class. And then the last tip that I have is to have a support plan. And yes, the support plan is sort of twofold, because as teachers, we need to support our parents, our children and our parents, but we also need to have support, because we've never had to do anything like this before. It's probably been one of the biggest challenges for all of us. So I'm very, very lucky that I am a part of a wonderful teacher support group. And the PlaySense teachers are absolutely incredible. They have shared the most wonderful tips, ideas, resources, and it's just a really, really safe community. So the PlaySense teachers it's just a wonderful support, because, sometimes it can be discouraging if you have a bad day or you've tried something and it doesn't work for you in the virtual classroom. But being able to share what you're feeling and have other teachers hear you and understand you and support you is really uplifting and positive. And I'm very lucky because PlaySense has created a curriculum for all of their teachers. So I didn't have to worry about what lessons am I going to give my child today? What activities are they going to do? I could just focus on, as PlaySense calls it, making the magic, or bringing the magic to the virtual classroom. So I could just focus on, how am I going to make my virtual time exciting, and how am I going to engage the children? Whereas I know many other teachers have the challenge of also creating a curriculum to send home. And then also the other part of the support plan is to support our families and our parents during this time. So we need to encourage and to motivate our parents to participate and encourage their child to participate in the virtual program. I mean, it's been so stressful for our parents. They've been facing financial stress, they're under emotional stress, they've had to look after their little ones at home. So they're also going through a lot. So always being positive and motivating them, whether it's sending them positive messages or affirmations, checking in on them every now and then, telling them they're doing a great job at home. I think we all need, during this tough time, we all just need a positive word and some support. So yes, that's about it. Thank you, Meg.
Thanks, Nadira. There's a couple of questions that have come up that I think I'll just mention as they come up, and people, you can please feel free to answer any questions as you go along. One of the things that Nadira, that somebody asked, and I think it's such a common question, is what do you do with a 2-year-old who wanders off in the middle of your lessons or in the middle of the rings? Does that happen?
Yes, so that is completely normal. So that was also something that I think when I started teaching, I used to find very demotivating and discouraging, because, you know, you've put so much effort into making this wonderful virtual lesson. And in the middle of it, you know, this 2-year-old just sort of walks away and disappears, and then you just feel like a failure. And I think that's something to also realize, that you can't treat the virtual classroom like you would treat your actual classroom, and you can't manage it in the same way. So you need to actually have realistic expectations and realize that it is not realistic for a 2-year-old to sit for 2 hours in front of the Zoom screen and be engaged. And to also realize that, you know what, there will be times when they might get distracted, but they will still know that you're there, and there's that sense of security for them and familiarity. And also, it takes them some time to get into this virtual routine. So I think when I started, it was new to all of us. But now, every day, like the parents would tell me, their little ones, even on a Saturday, they'll ask, where's their teacher? Because they're so used to waking up in the morning. It's a routine. They're used to seeing me. They know they sit in front of the screen, and that's school time now. School has changed. So I think just being more gentle with yourself, understanding that you are doing an amazing job as well, and you're trying your best, and you're learning as well through this process, and also giving your little ones time to adjust to this big change.
Yeah, absolutely, Nadira. And, you know, I mean, Nadira actually, I mean, all of the teachers out there are now wondering whether or not, you know, we're all going back to school or not. But Nadira is actually one of our teachers who has chosen that for now, that even if schools do go back, she'll stay online. And we do believe that there is going to be a shift in education, and that, you know, those teachers who want to master online teaching, that there's going to be a real place for them. So, and that's Nadira's choice for now. I'm going to come back to some questions that are coming up now. In fact, here's another nice one. Let's answer them as we go along here. Nadira, what's the best time of day to actually host your lessons, and when do you host them?
Okay, so my classes start at 9 o'clock. So we know with the lockdown regulations, the exercise time ends at 9. So that works quite perfectly. And then we have 40-minute sessions. We have a 40-minute session in the morning at 9, and then we have another one at 10:15, which is our snack session, and then at 11:30, which is our reflection session, till about 12:15. So I like doing the morning sessions, because I find that the children have the most energy in the morning. They are very excited, and it also starts off their day in a good way. So they wake up, they get dressed, they go out, they have some exercise, and they come back and they're ready for school. And then we have snack together as a group, which is wonderful, and we all say goodbye at the end of the day. So the morning really works for my group.
And what happens if the little ones are so engaged with your lessons that they don't want to leave and they don't want to turn off? Do you keep going, or do you say goodbye, that you'll be back?
So Meg, it was so funny, because when I started, honestly, I was really struggling to maintain the attention for 20 minutes. And I was telling Lara, in the last probably month now, I keep getting cut off because our limit on Zoom is 40 minutes. And then I have to call back, or I send them a video in the group if it's close to the end. But all my sessions have gone either to 40 minutes or over. And it hasn't been easy getting here. It's been a lot of trial and a lot of error. and figuring out what works for your little ones, because every group is so different. Every child is different.
Yeah.
So I'll already know, like somebody asked, sorry, Meg, back to what happens if a 2-year-old runs off the screen. So I've figured out, what will grab their attention. So when I see one little one losing focus, I'll immediately think, okay, I know she loves songs or she loves music, and then I'll bring that in, or think of another technique that I can do. So yeah, it has been, I've been learning a lot, but it is definitely getting better and easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what happens if a kid says they're not interested and they don't want to be involved? Do you tell the parents to just relax, or do you try and put in some guidelines? What do you do for that?
So at the end of the day, I don't want to make virtual school a stress for the parents. I'm always emphasizing that the activities that we do, the calls, everything is just a connection. At the end of the day, for them to see me, I don't want them to have to do it because they're forced to do it if they're not in the mood. So I always tell the parents, if they're not in the mood one day, it's okay. Let them skip that day. They'll join me tomorrow. But I always encourage them, even if they want to have a one-on-one session, just to say, even if it's hi and bye, that's fine, just so that they see me and they know that I'm there and they know that they have their teacher and it's a safe space. If they do want to speak to me or speak to their friends or speak to someone. So I don't think it's so much about the activities and getting the work done, but just for them to feel connected, because in this time we can feel so isolated. And the little ones are also feeling very isolated. So yeah, just to have that connection. So even if they're not in the mood, if they don't want to join for one session, I always tell the parents not to worry about it. And I also try to send videos home maybe once a week, just a video of me reading a story or something, just for the little ones. Some days they might not be in the mood, then at least they can watch that video and just see who I am and feel that comfort.
Brilliant, super. We're going to come back to more questions for Nadira just now. I'm going to just go on to talk about how do you actually start to design a solution for your schools. And for those of you who are heads of curriculum, or for those of you who teach us on your own, I'm going to just go through a couple of the things that we thought about as we started to create our curriculum. So the very first thing that I suggest that you do is to actually just stop and consider very carefully who your or really what the needs are. And we call them the pain points. What are your parents' pain points? And when you stop and think about that, there are a couple of pain points. One of them is, and let's just go through them. One of them is that parents actually are financially in trouble at the moment. There's no question. Everybody's got less to go around. And so one of the things we did in PlaySense straight up front is we decreased the amount that each child paid in terms of school fees, but we increased the size of the group because we could have more children. And when we have physical groups in PlaySense, we can only go up to 6, but now we can go up as high as 10. And so Nadira is an example of somebody whose revenue stream is actually more now than it was when she was having a real school, because she's really mastered the way that she does online schooling with little ones. Another pain point for parents is feeling lonely and a lack of support. I think, what teachers do not realize is that it's deeply ingrained in us to really connect with little ones and to feel okay and confident about playing with them. But for many parents, they actually haven't played for so many years that they might have forgotten how to. And the thought of having hours and hours of a day to keep a child occupied is terrifying. And so that support was very, very important. So the second thing we put in, so we decreased our fees. The second thing we put in is we made sure that we had a sense of community. And when I show you our portal just now, you'll be able to see how the parents connect with their teachers. And then the third thing was that parents are overwhelmed. And you'll remember all those memes that went around at the beginning of lockdown that were slating teachers, that were sending home too much homework because parents didn't know how to cope with homeschooling. So what we did is we whittled it down to 2 essential activities a day. And each day the activities build on a theme. And so we are developing the child in a certain direction, but the parent only has 2 activities to do. So we really keep it quite limited and don't overwhelm them. So that's the first thing, is I would say stop and consider the parent and what their pain points are. The second tip, and Nadira also alluded to this, is to help parents to find their rhythm and to find a routine. And, Lara and I have created a toolkit, which we'll be sending out, and we'll definitely send it to you for your parents as well. And that toolkit talks about helping parents to identify 2 critical things. What are the things that you cannot escape in the day, and put them down on paper. So like, for instance, if your business has a stand up at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's an unmovable. If Nadira's Zoom group is at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's an unmovable. So you put into your daily schedule, what are the unmovable times? And then parents must put into their daily schedule touch points. So times in the day where you really connect, because what I'm finding in my life is that I'm so busy and my kids are busy homeschooling that actually we can miss each other. And so things like meal times become touch points in the day. And those things are the things that are constant. And then around that, you then mix in things like homeschooling and the activities. And the third very critical aspect when you are trying to develop your own homeschool program is to try and create community. This sense of community and connection is very, very important for parents. And I think we mustn't lose sight of that. So it's not just delivering content for stimulation, but it is also delivering community. So before I go on to looking at all of the questions, I want to just show you what we developed. Lara has developed a program in our normal Play Sense, which is in homes of 6 children, of 11 themes. And we took those 11 themes and we brought them into our homeschool program. And then what happens is that when teachers start with us, and lots of teachers have started like you can come on board, you can use our curriculum, and when you go back into your old school, you can leave our curriculum. And if you do that, you go through a little bit of training. So we help you to make it really successful. And so we have a training portal, which I'm going to just show you here, which just helps you to know what you're doing. So on your training portal, you've got information on the theory behind Play Sense. So we have chosen 3 of our lectures that we give to our teachers normally: sensory integration, socialization, and play theory. And on each of those, we've actually Lara and I have recorded our videos and our lectures. So you'll be able to watch the lecture, you'll be able to view the notes. And then down at the bottom, we've taken, for instance, sensory integration. We said, how can we take this theory and apply it to actually teaching virtually? We also have business tools, which you would be able to use for running your school. So that's things like getting started on this platform, which is called Obami, mastering Zoom, just all the things you need to know about running your school. And then, of course, we've got Making Your Magic. So Making Your Magic is really what is going to make you a really effective teacher or not in terms of online. And the Making the Magic is all around what online teaching is, what it looks like. It's little videos and lectures from Lara and Nadira, how to say hello and goodbye, how to do storytelling. Nadira alluded to that, and why we do certain daily activities, how to make puppets. So it's all the things that you're going to need to know to have a really, really successful school. So that's the training that you go through. And then and the last part of the training portal takes you into your own program. And that is all the different themes. So you can see there, we've got 4 themes loaded already: the All About Me, My Town, the Jungle, and the next one is the Bug theme. So we have different themes that your little one will go through, and you're trained on those. Then the second portal that you are part of, and this will go for all of you. So for instance, we've got teachers, we've got a teacher in Botswana, and they might be online tonight with us, and they have their own school, and they have taken our portal and they have created it as their own school. So you would then be able to have your school, which could be the Little Stars School, and we actually help you to co-brand that so that it looks like yours. So when your parents, because your parents don't see the training portal, but they do see your school portal. So when they come on, they know that they are still part of your community, which is very important for when you go back. So this is the school that your parents all get added to. There's a little video there about what it's all about, and then you encourage them to get started. And then it'll introduce a little bit about the program, and then encourage, and we have a video there for that, and how to use the program and how to use the portal. And then we have something where they'll be introduced to their class. So you upload a video there of yourself, and then each of the children get their little pictures and a little bit about themselves, so the parents all get to know each other. That's our community. And then, of course, there's the program. And you, if a parent joins you halfway through your curriculum and you're already in the jungle, you just say to them, just click on the jungle, and they can then come in where the rest of the class is. So that's how you do your school. So what does the actual curriculum look like? Well, here is, sorry, let me try and move off this one. There we go. All right, so this is what the online portal actually looks like. And so when your parents are actually conducting the little programs, they'll have 2 portals. They'll have the portal which is their school or your school, and then they'll have the actual curriculum itself. And this is how we deliver the content. So they get to start their content, or they can jump forward to a specific week if you've told them that they need to be on a certain week. So our first theme was the body. There's a very thorough resource list. So this will include links to all the music that we use. It'll include the material list that parents need. They can get that from us if they want. All the books that are relevant for it, recipe ideas, downloads, all of that type of thing that they would need in order to be able to do this program. And then they also then can go into the actual activities. So let's start week 1. And so this would just be an example of one day in week 1. So the day is an 8:30 morning connect with your teacher, and then 2 activities a day. And on this particular day, it's an art activity and an imaginary play activity. You've got your resources and everything you need. And then when you've finished it, you click on it, and it takes you then to the next day. So every day, the parents just get their 2 little activities that they know that they're going to do with their little ones. And as Lara said, and this is very, very core to Play Sense, is that it is all play-based. It's not a curriculum that is focused on skills acquisition. We do not believe in that in Play Sense. We believe that at this age group, children need to play. It's all about imaginary play. Language is the most important thing that they can learn at this time, and that really is very much built into our program. Right, so I think that really kind of covers what our program is all about. I'm now going to end the slideshow, and I'm going to bring us back so that we can answer all your questions. And let me just move my screen down here. There we go. Stop sharing. Right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go through all of your questions now and just make sure that we've covered them. So feel free to send them through either on the chat or on the Q&A. And one of the questions is, how many days per week do these meetings take place? I presume you're talking about the school, about the school itself. So our school is daily. There are 5 days of activities with 2 activities per day, and our teachers Zoom in every day. But parents can sometimes choose not to do every day, and that's absolutely fine. Another question is, do we have different lessons for different ages? Could we get them as a school and share them amongst your teachers? Absolutely. So what we have got is we have got a 2 to 3-year-old program, which then has an extension built into it. So that, and the extension on a 2 to 3-year-old program for the 3 to 4-year-old is things like extending their language, extending how long they play for. And Lara, do you actually want to talk about that a little bit, about how we actually use the program to extend little ones into 3 to 4? And then could you also then, when you answer that, touch on what we're doing for the 4 to 5-year-old?
Sure, Meg. So we believe that repetition is core to learning, especially at this age. And I know it's hard to convince parents that. They always think new is better and faster is better. But especially with imaginary play, children build on what they've previously put down. And we use Vygotsky's theory a lot about scaffolding. And so essentially, if you think of that little building going up, they create the foundation in 2 to 3, and then 3 to 4, the activity is the same, but the teacher is given tips. For example, allow the child to cut out this circle that's part of the template for the art, or instead of tearing paper, allow them to cut it out. Or in sensory play, make sure you count how many blue items or yellow items, or which are bigger or which are smaller. So we help teachers there just be more directed in terms of language, as you said, making sure that they're using the appropriate language for different play scenarios. And outdoor play then will focus on, the first 2 to 3-year-olds hop, but 3 to 4-year-olds skip, for example, and we'll give tips along that. And then 4 to 5 is still very much embedded in make-believe play, our focus and our goals. But here we really wanting to help children with the skills for learning, which help then with pre-literacy and pre-maths. So that is still language. It's deliberate focused attention, deliberate memory, and symbolic thinking. So that's what we are busy developing for 4 to 5-year-olds.
Brilliant, thank you, Lara. I'm going to take 2 more questions. So one that has come up quite a lot, which I'm going to respond to, is what about the concern around screen time for little ones? And for any of you who've heard my Tech and Tots lecture, you'll know that I am quite anti-screens for little ones. But we are in a very different world. So the reason why I've always been hesitant about screen time for little ones is twofold. And that is that learning for little ones happens on 2 levels, through sensory experiences that wire the brain and through emotional engagement. And those are the two key pieces that are very much missing when you're watching a screen, like for instance, a television show, because there's no emotional response to your facial expressions when you're watching a screen, a TV screen. It's very different. And, you know, we are in times in which things are completely upside down and very bizarre. And I do think, and I'm learning through this, that we haven't managed to enrich the program in two ways. We've created social connections, so our little ones still feel part of a community, connect with their friends, and are also learning a very important skill of concentrating when they're looking at a screen, which for many of our kids now, they're going to be homeschooling all the way through to matric. And so, and to the final year of school. So to be able to learn to self-regulate your attention, to be able to concentrate on what's happening in a screen is going to be important. So we are giving the little ones the emotional connection. And then our activities are very sensory based. So we're making sure that there's lots of learning happening off the screen. And as Nadira pointed out, I mean, I think they're basically doing maximum 40 minutes early morning ring and then maybe 40 minutes later in the day. So that's the amount of screen time that's really been had. So the age groups go from 2 all the way through till 5 years old. And then our parents pay monthly, but they pay our teachers directly. They don't pay us. And then our teachers pay us a royalty for using the system. And that's exactly how it would work for your school. So you could take our curriculum, you could offer it to your parents. We would onboard you as a teacher. We would help you with co-branding it and putting your name onto the portal so that it feels like your school, and that you protect your revenue stream for when you do go back into homes. And then we've got a pricing system that we work in with you, but you can continue to charge whatever fees you want to charge for your schools. Our teachers all have set fee, which out of interest is 1,750 Rand for joining the program, but you could continue to do whatever fees your parents are used to paying. All right. So I think really we have kind of covered most of the questions. I'm sorry that we haven't got to all your questions, but I'm very aware that probably some of you want to go off. And I wanted to just thank you very much for being with us. A huge thank you to Lara, who has created the most enriched curriculum and has been fastidious about understanding the way that little ones learn through play at this time. And to Nadira, who is an absolute lesson for us all on how we can make the magic and how amazing human beings are, in that we can really change the way that we interact. And you know, I don't think Nadira 3 months ago would ever have thought she'd want to do homeschooling, and here she is really conducting an excellent program. So thank you both for joining me. And for everybody out there, good luck with the work that you're doing. Join our community if you want to. We would love to have you as part of it. And you will get an email tomorrow which will give you more information about it. But even if you don't, just good luck out there, and know that you're part of a community of wonderful teachers who do care about you too. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Meg.
Good night.